Mr. Marks, will you join us, please? I couldn't resist. Good afternoon, everyone. We have no bills. How about that? It's a good thing. Okay, the first item on the agenda today is on page 17. It's a contract. David Likens is here from the Department of Environmental Protection and Sustainability. Who's here? Oh, he's not here. You're not Likens.
Right. Yes, Mr. Likens is actually out ill.
Uh-oh. Like Corona ill?
Corona.
Thank you. And who are you, sir?
Good afternoon. My name is Brady Locker. I'm the Deputy Director of Environmental Protection and Sustainability. Dave Likens is out today.
Thank you.
I think there's is that a HIPAA violation? I'm not sure, but he's home. He's home with the flu, but I'm sure he's watching from home. The administration on this bill for the urban tree planting services is requesting approval of two contracts with Level Land Incorporated and White Environmental Land Services, LLC, to provide on-call site preparation, tree planting, monitoring, and maintenance for urban landscape-style trees to support the county's Phase 2 Chesapeake Bay Watershed Implementation Plan and to support our Forest Conservation Act obligations. Each contract commences upon the council approval, continues for a period of 3 years with 3 one-year renewals for planting and maintenance, and then a final year for maintenance only. The county may extend the agreements of this contract beyond the initial term or any renewal term for an additional 90 days. The contracts do not specify maximum compensation for the 3-year term. It's estimated it'll be about $300,000, but it will be capped by the amount appropriated in the county's budget for each line item.
Okay.
The total length of the term is 7 years with the 3 months additional for the 90-day extensions.
Thank you. I think we would agree. We all love trees.
Yes.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? Councilman Marks?
Thank you very much. I want to thank the administration for its help with numerous tree planting initiatives, including the planting of the trees along Bosley Avenue and Goucher Boulevard. I think we all agree that increasing our tree canopy is critically important. I run into this a lot in Towson, and I see Beth Miller from the Green Towson Alliance here, where trees are taken down because the sidewalks are buckling and other issues. How can we get those trees replaced?
This contract will utilize the county's funds to replace those trees as needed. They are a little bit more complicated in urban settings. They'll require root barriers to present exactly what you're discussing with the buckling. We can certainly address any particular sites that you have concerns about, and we're happy to discuss those out with you at a later date if there are particular sites that you have in mind.
Okay, so if I prepare a list of streets where we've had numbers of them taken out, Towson Manor Village comes to mind, places like that, that's something you could look into for me.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Anyone else? Councilman Patoka?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do we have a standard in terms of the types of trees we plant in terms of maturity, height, thickness?
Yes,
What's
for
our
this,
range?
excuse me, for this program we do, it's 1 inch to 1.5 inch diameter breast height, or DBH. They're typically about 6 feet tall. Would be the range, and they're in 5-gallon buckets typically, or balled and burlapped.
Is that on, just for a visual, is that what's planted along Bosley Avenue in the median?
This is Carrie Oberholzer. She oversees the contract administration and forest management of these services.
And do we partner with nonprofits like Blue Water Baltimore that I think they do a really outstanding job in terms of tree planting throughout the county and region?
Absolutely. Yes, we do. We give Blue Water Baltimore a grant each year to support their planting and other
And that's
environmental
separate from
activities. That would
these
be separate.
dollars here?
Yes, yes.
What's the dollar amount of our grant to Blue Water Baltimore?
Is it 90? I can check to confirm that, but off the top of my head, I think it's $90,000 a year.
Okay,
I can
thank
confirm
you.
that.
I think they do an outstanding job in terms of mobilizing communities, their own efforts in planting, and have really helped with building our tree canopy throughout the county.
Absolutely, they're a wonderful partner.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
One more quick
Yes,
question.
Councilman Marks.
I completely agree with Councilman Patoka. Blue Water Baltimore is wonderful, NeighborSpace, another great organization, and these two stakeholder organizations do advance our common interests. Just out of curiosity, is this an increase over the current level of funding?
This would be it's not an increase in a level of funding. We request the revenue for this contract in the county's, in our annual budget, whether it's through capital funds or fee and lieu funds that we get through the Forest Conservation Act.
Okay.
There are numerous revenue sources to support this contract, but this is an estimate, the $300,000 of what we spent under a similar contract previously. In the third page of the fiscal note, it goes into the history
Sure.
of what we had spent for the last 3 years, I believe. It came up to, over 3 years, to be about $300,000. I think it was $290,000.
The Princeton elms, which were the trees planted along Bosley, how much do those cost, roughly?
Okay,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Councilman Quirk?
Yeah, just a quick question on, Catonsville has this great group, the Catonsville Tree Canopy Group with Jim Hamel, and
Mhm.
are you guys actively working with Jim and his group currently? Do we help fund their programs? So it's all just private donations that they've been using? I believe so, yes. And then the county's been working really well with this group, Catonsville Tree Canopy, and really working to plant trees all over the place. And PG&E actually donates a fair amount of money toward it privately as well. So, yeah, it's good stuff. And Jim's definitely a great guy, connecting to, does great work for the community, and spends tons and tons of time maintaining all these trees everywhere that he's just taken upon himself and his group to be proactive on. So,
That's great.
cool, thanks.
Councilman Catch?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sure that you periodically take a look at the trees that have been planted. Do you do any statistics as to, let's say, after 5 years, after 10 years, what percent of these trees survive?
Yes, that's a more complicated question than it might appear. It depends upon the program that they're being planted for, and how long we will keep track of the trees. For the purpose of whip planting, for instance, the trees were, under this contract, if they were planted as urban landscape style trees, they would have, the contractor has an obligation to keep that tree healthy for a period of 1 year, and then we would then be able to use the maintenance services in this contract to keep that tree healthy moving forward. I think after a period of 10 years, then that tree is expected to show up on an urban tree canopy aerial. So we would no longer be keeping track of that individual tree, but it's expected to have grown to a certain size to show up on a tree canopy survey.
Do you have any numbers?
I can certainly get some for you. I don't have them off the top of my head, but I can certainly get some for you, and we can break it out. We report them annually as part of our MPDS annual report, so we can certainly get them quickly out of that report for you. Sure.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Our next physical matter is on page 1 and then page 5. And we have Mr. Rob O'Connor here to brief us. Page 1 is a contract. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the council. Sorry, which item is on page 1?
Page 1, audiovisual.
Audiovisual, thank you. Office of Information Technology went out for a competitive bid for audiovisual services, and 2 awards were made. One was made to Daily Computers, and the second was made to Strategic Communications. This is for high-end AV work, audiovisual that is currently in our Emergency Operations Center, our Towson 911 Center, Gilroy, and the Police and Command Center. Also for upcoming capital projects such as library upgrades, they'll be utilized for that.
Any questions or comments from the members? That was easy. You want to
Yeah,
go
it
on
was
to page 5? Purchase order?
Sure. This fiscal matter is for a purchase order contract with Remy Corporation for the OIT staffing services to select a candidate for Baltimore County for OIT for project manager for the Workday implementation. Prior to us working with Remy Corporation, OIT went out for 3 different postings for a project manager. We have interviewed dozens of candidates. We actually selected a candidate in the second round of interview. We had to terminate that candidate in 2 months for not meeting performance. The third round yielded no qualified candidates again. The information technology, we took a look at contracting out for this position. Contracted positions for this skill set are roughly $250,000 to $275,000 per year. We reached out to Workday and asked them directly where we could find skilled candidates that have Workday experience and where do their current customers select from. Remy was selected and presented to us. We interviewed Remy. We were sent a large number of applications and resumes. We interviewed 3 different candidates from Remy. All 3 highly exceeded anybody that we interviewed from, sadly, county postings. We made 1 selection on a Friday, and that candidate then also remitted on Monday. We went with our second selection after that. This is for the Workday project. It is a $10 million ERP implementation. We need a highly skilled PM to run this. This system will be the backbone of the county HR and financial system for probably the next 10 years. So we want to make sure that we selected a qualified candidate to make sure that this project implemented on time and on budget.
Thank you. Do we have any comments? Yes,
Yes,
Councilman
thank you, Madam
Patoka.
Chair. So Workday, what exactly does it do? Is it payroll? Is it retirement? Is it
Not
all
retirement.
of those?
So it is our HR payroll system. It is also our financial system. We are working also to see if it'll be our financial planning system, but it'll be the complete backbone for every employee for their time, leave, and payroll. It also, in the future, be a learning management system and can track accreditation for each employee moving forward.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Rogers?
Councilmember Patoka, I'd also add that it is one of the best practices tools in the area. It's not only does it do those things or manage those things that Mr. O'Connor talked about, but it's also like our day-to-day timekeeping and all of the functions, the business process functions that an HR system should have. So we have a universal way to pull time. It also helps with having our organizational charts and structures where you can see that, reporting lines, all of the kinds of things that we should be able to do in an automated way right now that we can't. Baltimore City has Workday. The state of Maryland has Workday, although they did not purchase all of the functionalities, but we're the modules that manage performance management in terms of our annual performance plans. This is what it does on the HR side, and then we also selected the fiscal operations side of it.
So, Ms. Rogers, when you and I worked together at the state of Maryland, I had a sheet, and I would write in my hours.
Piece of paper, right.
On a piece of paper.
Right.
And then I would turn it into someone who would then do something with it, I'm not sure what. But then I would receive a paycheck every other
Right.
week. And then we went from paper to logging it in. I don't know if you were still with the state at that time. I think I stayed a few years longer. Is that Workday?
I don't know if it was during the second term of the O'Malley administration. However, upon my return, my second tour of duty to the state had migrated to Workday when I was
Okay,
director of
so
Baltimore
perhaps
City
that was when we were,
DSS.
because and at one point we were running redundant systems to make sure that the new system was working.
Correct, but it's District of Columbia, and there's a full list of jurisdictions that use Workday across the country.
We're not using Workday currently, or
That is correct. We are currently using Advantage as
are
our.
we going to
legacy
run a
system.
redundant system when we bring on Workday to ensure that it's working?
Workday is a SaaS system, so it is completely hosted and redundant. It's highly secure. So, I mean, the best examples to give, because the county wants to move the best of breed, Google and Amazon both use Workday as their ERP, and they're probably the two major leaders in IT in the world. So if it meets their needs, it definitely can meet our needs.
But isn't there some benefit at least for the beginning period to run a redundant system?
In the
Just in case
transition?
there's some compatibility?
Oh, you're talking about when we go live or cut over.
Correct.
Correct, yes. Yeah, I mean, we're going to be on the Advantage system, and we will run our first payroll through Workday, but obviously, we will have the other system
Correct.
there
That's
in case we
exact-
need to fail back. That's what you mean. Thank you.
Yes, exactly.
This is in the point of transition.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly. Not continuous.
Yeah, we do that with
redundancy.
all systems.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you.
Didn't we have that? Oh, okay. Next, we'll go to page 9. And we have Deborah Schindel here. I don't know why I do that sometimes, do you? And this is an amendment. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm here to speak upon a request from the administration. We are requesting the Second Amendment to a contract with GEIP Associates for continued on-call mechanical and electrical engineering services for various county buildings. The proposed amendment increases the maximum compensation for $400,000 from the $750,000 to $1,150,000 for the entire 6-year term of the contract, including the renewal period. The contract actually commenced on February 16th, 2016. Basically, what's going to happen is we're in the process of working with the PSSC, the Professional Selection Service Committee, to rebid this. But we have needed the services of a mechanical engineer due to the extensive process of us replacing generators in fire stations and police stations, and also now with the extractors, wash machines, and dryers that are coming in. We have to make sure that when we go to replace, that we replace not only, it may not be in kind, but 10 years ago, our equipment was older. Our buildings and needs have changed, obviously, with our electrical, with the computers we use, and all the things required for the newest technology. We need to make sure and ensure in those particular buildings that if electricity goes down, that they still have the capability of running and they have a large enough backup system to provide them what they need. So that's why we're asking for that. One of the auditor's questions was, the note indicated that the amendment is necessary due to the installation of commercial extractors and dryers at fire stations and generators at police stations and fire stations. What is the status of the work and what is the estimated cost? So first, I'd like to tackle the fire stations. We're currently working with the fire stations to select the particular wash machines and dryers that they would like to have. And once we determine, or they determine that, then that will move forward on the price and how much it's going to cost and when. So I can't answer that question quite yet for the fire because we're still working with them to make sure that they get the equipment that they want, and then we'll be able to come back and tell you some cost and evaluate it through then. I can tell you that we right now are working on 7 generator projects for the fire. Approximately $20,000 is the design cost for each location, and that we are in various stages. Some are getting ready to go out to bid, some are in just getting newly going to get designed now or within the next 3 months. Some are ready to be installed out of those 7 that we will be doing. Has the county incurred more costs than there is room under the current contract upset limit to pay for these services? And the answer is yes, that's why we're here. We obviously have to keep the work going, and we do need this increase until we can get that new bid out. We had another company that we also had, and they were selected. There's 2 bids. We already did not to exceed to them, and they're already maxed out. So this is our last resort, and then we're going to definitely get the new contract in place.
Any comments or questions? Councilman Quirk?
Just a quick one, and this is a little off the topic. Are you working on the Cadensville Fire Station issue?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. Any, well, we can talk offline, but just curious on where exactly that's all standing later, but we'll talk offline on that one.
Sure,
Thanks.
thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Deborah.
You're welcome.
Next, we'll go to page 12, still under contracts, and we have Mr. Steve Walsh. Good afternoon, Mr. Walsh.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair Bevins, members of the council. We're here today to request approval of a contract with New Gen Strategies and Solutions, LLC, to provide a comprehensive business process review of water and sewer services provided by the city and county. And this is the system otherwise known as the Baltimore Metropolitan Water System that the city and county share, which delivers water to over 1 million people in the Baltimore region. Council commences upon council approval and continue through April 2021 and may be extended for additional 90 days. Compensation may not exceed $975,000 for the entire contract term, including extensions. I do want to just make a couple comments that I really think the county executive and Mrs. Rogers should be commended on getting the city on board with this effort. This is the first time that the city and county are going to be working together through this contract and this contract vendor to provide a holistic view of the system, the way it works together, both the city side and the county side, and the relationship between the two. We worked with the city for 6 months or so to put together the scope of work for this RFP. Once we got to that point, city and county staff both were members of the RFP review committee, and this vendor was selected among 4 qualified applicants. All the applicants were pretty good. This vendor was a little bit better and was selected through that RFP process. The actual contract is a little higher than the, let me step back. Two firms were selected for best and final offers. The best and final offer for this particular contractor was $845,500. We included some contingency money in this contract in case any items are identified during the course of the project that we want additional study or review. We also added some time, contingent time to the end of this contract. We're hoping to have this completed by the end of the year. But again, this is a comprehensive review of the systems, and the main tasks identified in this contract are 6 major tasks: a review of the city-county service agreements, a review of the organizational structure and governance models, staffing review, evaluation of sewer and water system planning and the overall management of it, meter-to-cash operations, and field operations. So as you can see, it's pretty extensive review, and We're excited to get to this point and excited to get the contractor started with council's approval.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. It's certainly terrific news to hear about the partnership between the city and county. Congratulations and good luck on that.
Nick?
Yes, Councilor Marks.
Oh, do we have any questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Questions,
Oh, yeah,
comments?
sure.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. No, thank you. This is an expensive contract, but it is one we need to do. And, the council unanimously passed a resolution last summer calling for a regional water authority. My hope is that this contract will produce findings that support that conclusion that we've all reached. I think there are well-meaning people in the city, and quite frankly, every time I've asked for help from Rudy Chow, I know he's gone, Yolanda Winkler's down there now, they've been helpful. They've really tried to help, but I think they're maybe overwhelmed. There's just so many issues here, and if this can result in a partnership that leads us to a water authority, that's going to be a real positive. My one question, Steve, is when the interviews occur, can the county council be involved in those interviews?
I'm sure you can. You mean as a stakeholder in the
As a
stakeholder interviews?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Any
may I
oth-
be
yes,
recognized?
Ms. Rogers.
I just want to also reiterate, this was a very, very rigorous development of the RFP. Hours and hours. We sat at the table. I personally participated in the development of this RFP, and then in the process of going through the selection for the contractor. We have every expectation that the information that will come out of this project will inform our decision-making in terms of our current system as well as where we need to go. This company definitely has a excellent reputation in the work that they've done. I believe that the observations that they'll make and the reports that they will give will help guide us toward what the system should look like. But I just want to also reiterate, we have ongoing work with the city. We just didn't come together to develop an RFP and then go back to our respective corners. We meet on a regular basis. We are working on reviewing our archaic agreements that we're working on. These agreements were developed and we are still operating with them. There are guiding documents right now, 1972 and 1974. This industry has changed so dramatically since that time that we've got to keep working on other things for some short-term operational reasons. So I don't want you to think it's just about the RFP. It's ongoing, and that is an expectation. And I feel that the city colleagues have been genuine in their efforts. Last, I will say that the city is a willing partner in this project, and I want to thank our colleagues for acknowledging that this was needed. You know, a lot of people said we should have done this a long time ago. Well, we did it. And now we will take the next 9 months or so to determine what's the next step for us as a water system and two jurisdictions, unique jurisdictions. We were told that by the various offerers that our relationship is very unique. This isn't the traditional way the system works. So I want you to know I have every confidence, and I hope that you will have every confidence in our work as we do this to go forward. And later in the year, we should be able to have findings and observations from our contractor that we can share.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Couch.
Yes, what other subdivisions are served by this system?
So
None like ours.
Cecil, Hartford County is served by some water purchases. I believe Carroll County as well, some raw water they purchase from the system. We in the city are the main users, though.
Now, what about?
And Howard County as well. Howard County is served by some of the areas on the east side.
What about northern Anne Arundel?
Anne Arundel has made strides to separate themselves from the
Okay.
system. I'm not sure exactly if they still have a little piece of it. Tom, do you remember?
They do.
Yeah, not much anymore.
So Carroll, Harford, and what was it, Howard?
Howard.
Do they have the same relationship with the city as,
No.
it's a different relationship?
They purchase water, whether
They
it's
purchase
raw water or found water. We are in a partnership where, for example, the billing part of this comes from the city in terms of our billing, and we then handle the sewer side. That's what's one of the unique situations about this. That is not the typical way the partnerships go.
So the other counties, they have their own system, they just buy the water and they have
Correct.
their own, okay.
That's correct.
There's no other partner in
I
this
see.
relationship that interfaces with the city the way we do.
Would it have been appropriate for the ratepayers in Baltimore City and Baltimore County to pay for this study instead of the citizens of Baltimore County?
I'd rather have an offline conversation with you
Sure,
on that.
that's fine, that's fine.
Councilman Batoko?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this contract will look at both county users of the water system and city users of the water system. Mr. Walsh?
Interesting.
Yes, yes.
I bring that up because one of the nuts and bolts of good government is that we can provide water service, that we are able to bill for that water service, and we're able to do it in a fair way. And so would this be in fairness, if a new user comes online that was not a user in the past, and this will help to identify users that come online into the enterprise and that they are appropriately billed, not billed with a D, but B-I-L-L-E-D.
So I think
billed.
the study will look at the current processes that are in place and make observations about that. Certainly, as new users come on board, they have to follow existing processes to be put into the system currently. So
I bring this up with intent, and the intent is to ensure that as a system that in Baltimore County, that we're fairly billed and not to offset the charges of a new user that may come online somewhere in the system that's not billed appropriately in functioning, in performing, the nuts and bolts of good government. We've heard instances in the past of new users that have come online into the system that have been provided water without any billing associated with it for many, many years. And so I think that I'm hopeful that this investment will help identify those users that are not billed appropriately, and that will make a more fair system to pay for our water and sewer in a more equitable way, so that a new user doesn't get free service for 10 or 15 years.
May
Ms.
I
Rogers,
respond?
sure.
I believe that Task 5, assess the meter to cash operations, will address that part of the business process, because knowing that we can ensure that persons who should be billed, whether that's residential or whether that's commercial, and that what they're being billed is appropriate, is what we're seeking to find out of this work.
Excellent.
Because those are the issues that, in a system that has been operating under one set of guidelines for so many years, we need to stop and assess, are we doing each part of the business process in an appropriate way, and using industry best practices at this point in time, and knowing that we're being guided by agreements that have multiple amendments and so many pieces attached, that we can't clearly say that. And that's why we feel that this investment really is our assurance that here in Baltimore County, that our residents are billed, whether it's commercial or residential, are being billed appropriately, and that what they're being billed is as accurate based on industry best practice and standards.
Yeah, I mean, in the private sector, it would be accounts receivable, and private sector, if their accounts receivable aren't matching up with inventory that's going out, there'd be an issue. We have a representative from a utility out in here present today, and I'm sure that his industry, if they were providing the utility that they provide and the billing was not appropriate, they would take pretty immediate action. So I'm glad we're at this point today. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. The last contract is an addendum, and Mr. Blades, I believe you're going to speak on that.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of council. Baltimore County government and Baltimore County Public Schools are collaborating on selecting a consultant to prepare a multi-year plan for all schools and are requesting your approval on a contract with Cannon Washington Incorporated. The plan will include a review of 3 key assessments. 1, enrollment projections, capacity, and utilization assessment. 2, an educational equity and adequacy assessment. And 3, a facility condition assessment. The plan will be split into 2 phases, with the high school master plan completed in September of 2020, in time for the development of the FY22 capital program. And phase 2, which will focus on all remaining schools, will have a final report issued in August of 2021, in time for the FY23 capital budget formulation. The contract is capped at $1.2 million, and pending council approval, will begin with the notice to proceed on April 1st.
Thank you, Mr. Blade. Any questions or comments? Councilman Marks?
Thank you very much. This is a long-awaited document, and this is something that a number of us who served on the council for a long time have been really eager to see. A non-political approach to infrastructure and school investment. And I really look forward to the outcome. I want to applaud the county executive for moving forward. You know, we have so many needs in this county. We have at least 3 high schools that need to be replaced, right? We need a new Northeastern high school. If Councilman Crandall would probably mention, we need a new high school in Sparrows Point area. And it's important to have an objective assessment that gets us there. So I just have a couple quick questions. First is, we're going to be looking very closely at swing space, aren't we? Where we, when we have these big school projects, where we can put these students while we're doing those buildings. And I say that because a few years ago, the decision was made to bulldoze the old Carver High School for a turf field. And I think in retrospect, that was probably a very hasty decision because it limited what we could do at Towson and Delaney. So we're going to be looking at that, right, Ed?
I certainly hope so, because Carver, the old Carver, worked out great when we had to do the addition at Stoneleigh. And you're probably right, hindsight being what it is, we probably should have held on to it a little bit longer for other opportunities. But yes, I think that will be hopefully where we land.
Okay. Ms. Rogers?
I'll say it's more than hopefully. We are having discussions.
Good.
The CE has talked about that and what we could use as an alternative in terms of swing space as we look at other projects. So that is something that is on the discussion table as we're speaking.
Okay, very good. Secondly, the planning money that was announced last August for Towson and Delaney, what's the status of that?
The school system has, they've sent, what happens as far as the process, they send over an allotment, getting permission to spend the money, and that has happened. They have already gone and they've initiated the process, and they are, I don't know if they've contracted yet, but they are actively moving forward with the planning documents to see, you know, what the building, what the site restrictions may or may not be, so that we can begin the process of the IAC documents that are required, where the IAC reviews whether or not a replacement school versus a renovation is the best option. So they're pursuing they're preparing those preliminary planning documents now.
Okay, finally, I like the timeline on this because it assumes that we get the build-to-learn money, which hopefully the Senate acts very soon on, and we finish all the build-to-learn projects, right, and then we can jump into the high school projects. That's the plan, correct? Hopefully.
Well, we have the 8 Schools for Our Future program.
Right.
We have the school that we're pending state funding, and then we have the high schools, and then this plan.
Okay. But the fact that the high schools are the first phase of this means that might be where we go.
That is the intent, to look at the high schools.
Good, thank you.
I do have to say, Mr. Blades, that when we sent this text out the other day to move this forward, I received yes, 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 yes. No. We were excited.
Madam Chair, thank you very much
Yeah.
for entertaining this. I know
Yeah.
it was late, and I appreciate Lauren and Liz and Tom in helping us work
We-
it onto the agenda.
We were glad to help on this one, for sure. Thank you, Mr. Blades. Anybody else? Okay, our last piece of business is a council matter, page 23. What am I missing? Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. It's page 21.
Right.
Resolution 31-20, Mr. Marks. Do you want to
Okay.
say a few words?
Sure, thank you very much. It is my absolute
Yeah.
pleasure to introduce this resolution in support of Main Street Maryland designation for Towson. There are several representatives of our key stakeholder groups in Towson. You know, in any other jurisdiction, Towson would be its own city. And we need to always be looking at ways we can get resources for beautification, for public safety, for maintenance, all those functions that would normally be done by a city government. Fortunately, we have outstanding stakeholder organizations. We have the Towson Chamber of Commerce. We have the Greater Towson Committee, the Green Towson Alliance, the Towson Communities Alliance. All these groups work together. And as I think you're going to hear, they collaborated on an outstanding blueprint that moves us forward. So I am delighted to endorse this application and hope that the County Council will as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. Are there any comments? All right, we have 2 speakers signed up. The first would be one of the hardest working women that I know in Baltimore County, and that would be Miss Nancy Hafford. There you go. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Chairwoman Bevins and council gentlemen. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak before you today. This project has taken some time. I started it almost about a year ago, and the application was about 400 hours. But I'm so very, very grateful that we have such a community that works together. Councilman Marks helped on this, and we have the support from Delegate Kathy Forbes and State Senator Chris West, and the county executive has supported this Main Street affiliation program. Almost all the property owners in Towson have signed on to it, though some of them were out of state, so we couldn't get to them, but I'll tell you, I chased them like a rabid dog. And almost all the business owners from around here, they also supported it, and 30 different residential communities from around the area. And so we've been working on this well before, this even goes through, so that we're ready, because we collaborate, because the most important thing for the business community is the support of the residents. We need to keep them coming in and supporting our small businesses and keeping them strong. Over the last several years, there's been over $1.7 billion in development around here. We're going to have thousands of new people living on the streets. And our chamber members give over $75,000 a year out of their pocket to do the best they can band-aiding in the community with trees and bushes and plants and things like that. But they also give 500 hours of their time to volunteer to over 130 community events. So we're very, very grateful for any support that we can have from the council to move this forward to the state. We've already met with them. We're extremely hopeful that this is going to move through and move through fast. So we're very grateful, and thank you for agreeing to do it. Goodbye.
Thank you for your testimony.
Oh, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for your testimony, and thank you for all the work you do with the Towson Chamber.
Thank you.
Woo-woo, right?
Oh, it's whoop-whoop. Next, we have Beth Miller.
That's really a tough act to follow. Thank you, Chairwoman Bevins and the council for giving me this opportunity. I'm Beth Miller. It's a pleasure to testify on behalf of the Green Towson Alliance in favor of Resolution 3120. As Nancy said, GTA has been working in collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce and other partners as they pursue this designation. We support the reinvestment and revitalization the Main Street designation will bring to make Towson clean, safe, and green, which was one of the 5 points of the Main Street program. This designation will provide resources that can improve the green infrastructure in downtown Towson. Green infrastructure uses natural systems like trees and plants and bioretention features like specially designed tree pits and rain gardens to absorb stormwater. This approach cleans the air and water, uses native plants to create habitat for insects, birds, and other animals. I saw a hawk perched in a tree on Pennsylvania Avenue a couple weeks ago. It was amazing. And green infrastructure makes it look beautiful. It also makes downtown areas safer by attracting pedestrians and putting eyes on the street. Greening is directly connected to economic vitality. Studies show that shoppers seek areas that look beautiful, feel enclosed, and are shaded and cool. Shoppers perceive cities with trees as having greater amenities, comfort, maintenance, and upkeep, improved merchant interaction, higher quality of products than those without trees. In surveys, shoppers say they will spend 9 to 12% more for goods and services in central business districts having high-quality tree canopy, and commercial offices having high-quality streetscapes have a 7% higher rental rate. Stakeholders have long had a vision for a walkable Towson, and this program will help get us there. Towson is a perfect candidate for the Maryland Main Street program. I hope you'll support this resolution, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Thank you for all you do. Annie? I think this concludes today's work session. Everyone have a good afternoon, and don't forget to wash your hands. That's my PSA for the day, yeah.